Connolly is a writer who divides his time between Maine and his native Ireland.
He spent the last couple of months traveling around the U.S. promoting his new novel, The Land of Lost Things. And when racking up hundreds and hundreds of miles going from place to place, Connolly is a bit unusual in that he prefers to drive rather than fly.
I have a magpie curiosity, I think most writers do, but also because of the books that I write, I'm always looking for odd places. You become your own location scout in a way. You're looking for places that might be interesting or have a curious history. They don't even have to be nice places. They just have to be something, they have to have something that catches your eye.
Actually, it's often better if they are not nice places, right? It's the sort of shady places that can give you material.
Or odd places. I remember ending up in Athens, Pennsylvania, and somebody said to me, "How in God's name did you go to Athens, Pennsylvania?" And I remember saying, "That's a podunk town," which is a bit harsh on poor old Athens, Pennsylvania. But there's not much to it. But actually, places like that have a kind of anonymity to them are actually really interesting for crime fiction. They become kind of like every towns in a way.
Let's talk about your new book, The Land of Lost Things. This is a sequel to the Book of Lost Things. 17 years separates the two?
Striking while the commercial iron is hot, Robbie. That's what I'm doing. This is why I don't have a yacht or a decent suit. I don't even have a nice jacket like you do.
Why did it take you 17 years to write this sequel?
I had never thought I would write a sequel to it. That first book was really personal to me, and I needed to get to a point where I was sufficiently invested in it personally to want to go back into it again, to explore that phase of my life. And now it is a book about parenthood, about being a parent. And I think if I were ever to go back to that world again, I imagine it'll be when I'm 70 or 75, when my concerns will be mortality, and it will be a book about old age, I would imagine. So I would have this kind of trilogy of very, very personal books about different phases of my life.
Sort of a chronicle of John Connolly.
Yeah, but at one remove. Fiction functions like a kind of prism, in that you refract experience rather than reflect it. You get to see it, these different colours. You get to look at the components of it in a very different way, I think. And that's what fascinates me about it.
Did the writing of the book come easily to you, again, since you were working from material that you first worked on nearly 2 decades ago?
Yeah, I had gone back to it. I had tried to write a film script for the Book of Lost Things because the book had been under option ever since it's been published. No one had ever managed to write a script for it. They would get to an outline and then go, "Nope, can't do it." And I said, "Well, nobody's asked me." And so they gave me a check and said, "You go and try and do it." And I did manage to solve a lot of the problems. But then the other problem we realized was actually you can't make a movie of it. I've solved some problems, but I've given you a bigger problem. And there was just too much in the book to be able to do it.
You're a big movie fan. What was it like for you to write a screenplay?
Horrible. Absolutely awful. People become writers, I think, in general because they don't like playing with other children. They're not very good at it, and they shouldn't really be allowed to go to other kids' houses because they only cause trouble. And film and television are such collaborative mediums. For a writer, I'm just in charge of my own little universe. I'm my own benevolent dictator. And suddenly you have to accept that all of these people have very valid opinions, even if you don't want to listen to it. And I found it incredibly difficult and hugely time-consuming. And then at the end of it, we didn't have a film.
Well, was the hard part writing the script, or was the hard part collaborating and listening to other people who would be involved in the production of the script if it were to be turned into a movie?
Very much the latter. With film, you write your outline and 10 people have an opinion, and all of those opinions are completely different, and they all want them incorporated. Then you do it, you put in that stuff, and then somebody goes, "That didn't work, let's do this again." And it's a form of madness. I have friends in Los Angeles who've made entire careers out of not having films made. As long as you can put up with it, you can just keep getting money to do this thing that might never be made. But I love the idea that if I sit down to write a book, in 2 or 3 years' time it will be published. There's no guarantee of that with film or television.
But the checks are pretty nice.
The checks are pretty. I get seasick and I can't wear white pants. What am I going to do with the yacht, Rob?
So he's got a home in Maine, but he does not have a yacht in Maine, and that is part of the reason why.
I just adore him. He's awesome.
I love his description of a writer, a novelist, is a benevolent dictator in his own universe.
I love that too.
When you have to collaborate with other people in film and television, you are no longer the dictator, benevolent in your own universe.
Good.
Again, the name of John Connolly's latest novel is The Land of Lost Things. You can find out more about him and the book and his many other books by heading to the 207 section of newscentermaine.com.